Hello and welcome into the latest edition of ESPN FC. Shaki Hislop is back. Stevie Nicol has had a fresh haircut for today's edition. Looking mighty fine as well. Let's talk a little bit about the Premier League, shall we? Lots to look forward to this weekend. A look at the top of the table where leaders Arsenal maintain that 5-point lead. They are on the hunt for a 5th Premier League win on the trot when they take on Fulham at Craven Cottage on Sunday. Now, perhaps it wouldn't usually be seen as a big hurdle for the Gunners, but Fulham are 7th, as you can see. Last game against Brentford aside, it's been a good run of form for them as well. Arsenal's Granit Xhaka has been talking about the pressure on his side as league leaders ahead of the game as well. He said that you can see that every team is playing different against us. They're dropping a lot, sometimes they're pressing us as well. But this is what happens when you are top of the league. There is much more pressure than before, for sure. But in general, I think we are doing well. I think there's a good mentality in the team. Let's try to keep that. Let's welcome in Stuart Robson and Archie in touch. You obviously know Archie from our Bundesliga coverage, but he's a massive Fulham fan as well. So we're going to get his take on Fulham. But I will start with you, Stuart. Are you surprised with the side that Mikel Arteta put out in the Europa League this week, given that it was such a strong side and the fact that they're going for the Premier League title this year?
Yes, I think they also want to win the Europa League. He's got to put out... They've got some good momentum at the moment. Yes, he rested 1 or 2 players that were maybe key, but I think he had to put out a good side. I think that sent the right message to the players. It sent the right message to the fans. And, you know, when you bring in the likes of Jorginho in, who's had success at Chelsea and for Italy, and the likes of Ryan Nelson, Zinchenko, the 2 players that didn't play particularly well were Turner and Kivior, but the rest of the players I thought had a decent game. Vieira was excellent. I'm not sure he's going to play against Fulham. But I wasn't surprised by the team he put out. And I thought it was a good enough performance from Arsenal to go and win the second leg.
Stevie, you know well what it's like to be involved in a title race. Yeah. What's Arteta thinking here when it comes to the Europa League and putting a team out like this? How do you manage that?
Well, I think so far he's managed it well. I like what he did in this game. He put a strong side out, almost his full 11, and went to win the game. And then you saw him taking players off at the end. I love that he's gone about it that way. And I also think that he's doing the right thing as far as trying to win this tournament. You know, you can't just switch on and off the tap of we want to win this game and we don't want to win the other game. You know, when you want to be an elite player, an elite club, an elite team, you want to win everything you play in, then you have to have a mentality every time you step on the field that you're going to win. And the manager has to be careful that he puts a side out that reflects that. And I think that's what he's done. Every time he's put a team out, regardless of resting a couple of players, it's got we want to win this game written all over it. And so the more you're hit in the back of the head about winning and the mentality of winning, then the more it will happen. And so I think so far he's got everything right.
Do you agree with Stevie there, Xhaka?
Yeah, I do. Though I do say, well, in the case of Bukayo Saka, I'm surprised that he played a full 90 minutes. There are a couple others as well that I thought, given their importance to the team over the course of the season, in this game, the first leg of a Europa League tie, I didn't expect them to play 90 minutes. But Saka's a young player. He probably said to Arteta, yeah, I'm happy to play 90 minutes. The other thing to that is, pretty soon, Arsenal have a little bit of a break, an international break. They've got Fulham, second leg, I think Palace, and then they've got a couple of weeks off. But of course, the likes of Bukayo Saka, you expect, will feature prominently for England over the international break in their 2 games. So it really does become a little bit of a balancing act. And now, for me, I totally understand if Arteta made 11 changes, in all honesty. And as much as I take Stevie's point, this is still a young team trying to endure a level of pressure that they're not used to, a lesser level of pressure that got the better of them last season. And they don't have the type of squad that a Manchester City do. So I honestly thought that you'd see more rotation from Mikel Arteta. But he trusts his players to play this, he trusts his players to handle the pressure. I don't have much of an issue with that either. Proof will be in the eating of the pudding, though.
What do you think, Archie? Let's look at the Fulham point of view on this one. Can they take advantage of the fact that it was this side playing on Thursday nights?
Look, I'm a calculated pessimist. I always tip Fulham to lose against the top teams. And yet, of course, there is a bit of me that thinks that Fulham can beat Arsenal. I've seen the way that the team has performed against the top teams so far this season. And with the exception of a 4-0 defeat to Newcastle, 4-1 defeat to Newcastle, where João Palhinha couldn't play because he was suspended, which is relevant to this Sunday as well, and a 3-1 defeat to West Ham, where I'd say a lot of refereeing decisions played a role in that game. Fulham have not lost a single game by more than 1 goal this season. That tells you how close they've run every team in the division. I think somebody like Kenny Tete up against Reece Nelson, I saw the way that Kenny Tete played against Mykhailo Mudryk and Raheem Sterling the other week and had no problems in terms of one-on-one duels. That, for me, is an interesting matchup. How Fulham cope without João Palhinha, who's suspended, with Sasha Lukic in the middle and Harrison Reed, and also Willian against a club where he didn't shine, a point to prove. He already proved a point against Chelsea when he scored one of the goals in the win there. So, yeah, I think the question is whether he'll go with Willian and Solomon or whether he brings in De Cordova-Reid to give the team a bit more balance. Manor Solomon has scored in his last 5 games. He is incredible in one-on-one situations, but I'd look to somebody like Alexander Mitrovic to pick up his form a bit because he's not looked quite the same demon in front of goal, or indeed having the same motivation about him that gave Liverpool so many problems on the opening day, for example. And the whole team needs to be up for this, to press Arsenal and to try and get into them the way that Everton did a few weeks ago.
How do you see it going, Stuart, this game?
Well, I think Archie's absolutely right. I think Fulham have to try and press Arsenal and make it difficult for them. And it's a great example, the Everton game, not particularly in the first half, but as Everton tried to press high up the field, they got very tight in midfield. They were aggressive in midfield. When you're playing at home, you can be more aggressive. When you play at the Emirates at the moment, the crowd get onto the referee and it's difficult to be aggressive. At home, they can be. And absolutely right, Mitrovic has to be a threat in the air because you see Arsenal against Bournemouth, you saw Arsenal against Sporting. They didn't defend set plays particularly well, and that was a real threat. And that's where Mitrovic and Tim Ream might cause Arsenal 1 or 2 problems. But I've seen Arsenal a lot this season. And they always believe they can win games, even when they're 2-0 down. They might be, not playing particularly well. They've got that edge about them at the moment, that they've got great belief. They can always come back, create chances.
If you were to go glass half empty, could you say that there's signs of the season catching up with them here?
No.
No.
Absolutely not. Listen, this is a team that's going for its first Premier League title with this group of players. If anybody thinks that they're going to turn up and be half asleep because they played a Europa League game in midweek, you're absolutely kidding yourself. Kidding yourself. I would suggest, had Arsenal won the league the last 3 years on the trot, maybe they would take their eye off the ball. Maybe they would just think they're going to turn up and win the game. But when you're going for your first title, when you're going to win the Premier League and you're at the top, it's not possible to go to a place like Fulham and be half asleep and think you just got to turn up. And there's nothing to suggest from the first game this season to right now that this Arsenal side doesn't turn up to play. Yes, sometimes you just don't play as well as you normally do. Sometimes teams defend well against you. Or you get a Bournemouth that on the break, all of a sudden you're 2-0 down. These things happen. But I'll tell you what, there's one thing that's not going to happen at Fulham. And Arsenal are not going to turn up and be half asleep. If Fulham are at their best and Mitrovic finds his scoring touch, then they may be able to get something out of this game. But I'll tell you what, Fulham's vanilla, let's be honest. And Arsenal's got way too many players right now that can win this game. I'm sorry, Archie, but I don't see anything other than Arsenal victory.
All right, he's matching his pessimism when it comes to Fulham.
So vanilla that I forget how Liverpool did against Fulham on the opening day. I forget what happened. But there we go.
Sorry they won a game. Sorry about that.
We didn't win.
I understand Stevie's glass half full. But to that point, listen, I agree. There's no way Arsenal don't show up and don't come out firing. But to be 2-0 down at home to the team rooted to the bottom of the table, that is cause for concern. And as much as you come back and you win, as much as you come back, there is nobody else in this. There is nobody else in this league you give a 2-0 lead to and expect to come back and win. You scored in the 90th minute.
Yeah. So what?
All I'm saying is, this isn't all roses and petals here that you want. You made far harder work of the team bottom of the table in a league that you already have. You have wiggle room, but you know what City can be. While I accept, yeah, you take it for what it is, I think if you're not careful, there's some concerns that you have to be mindful of.
No response to that? All right.
Hey.
Well, let's see what Shaka thinks then when it comes to predictions,
That was the
can
first
we?
one I'm looking for.
What's Shaka saying? Oh, Arsenal 3-1.
Oh, Arsenal 3-1. There you go, Shaq. There you go.
Definitely not going to concede too early on in this one. Archie continuing with his pessimistic theme when it comes to his Fulham. We'll be speaking to Archie a little bit later about Bundesliga as well.
Arsenal fan. We now bring you one more first-hand news. Anxious to know? So let's go to the video after the vignette. Here's the thing, folks. Arsenal's young winger Reiss Nelson is keen to stay at the club, and there is a feeling a new contract will be signed. Evening Standard reporter Simon Collins. The 23-year-old is the man of the moment after his performance against Bournemouth last weekend, but he is expected to be out of contract at the end of the season. Nelson came off the bench against Bournemouth at the weekend as Arsenal were trailing a game in which many had expected the Gunners to go within 3 points. The 23-year-old winger played a pass to Ben White for the equalizer before scoring the winning goal. The £38,000 a week academy graduate is out of contract at the end of the season, but Nelson has confirmed he would love to sign a renewal. Getting a new contract would be amazing, and I would love to commit to the club, said Nelson, as per The Athletic. Becoming a regular at Arsenal seems unlikely for Nelson given his wealth of talent up front, but he showed over the weekend that he still has a role to play and can contribute to the team at the Emirates Stadium. A Mail Online report claimed following Nelson's last-minute win that Arsenal had already opened talks with the 23-year-old over a new contract. I believe you should renew with Nelson as soon as possible. And you, a fan, what do you think? Tell us. We'd love to hear your opinion. Leave your like and subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching, and until the next news.